Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunuyama Devaah Bhadram Pashyema Akshabhiryajatraah Sthirairangaistushtubhagum Sastanubhi Vyashema Devahitan Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vriddhishravaah Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaah Swasti nastarkshyo Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brihaspati Dadhatu Om Shanti 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, by way of revising some of the important points that we have covered, I just wanted to point out that in order to master any given subject matter, it is very obvious from our experience that what needs to happen is that we convert our initial interest and fascination for that subject matter into a plan for becoming an expert in it. During school or college days, one finds that students come to think about certain careers that interest them, whether it is a doctor's career, because they have seen some doctors, how well they relate to people and how they help people, or in any other field for that matter. It could be astronomy, it could be legal, it could be engineering, anything. And so then what happens is that you convert that into a very systematic study where you become very well versed in that field. So something like that happened to me. A lot of us are interested in spirituality and theology, knowing what is it is something I need to understand. I didn't get enough exposure in our life. That happens to all of us. And this becomes a fascination. But then what then happens is, this happened to me when I met Swami Chinmayananji, where a very concrete idea of what the subject matter means became very, very real to me. But then what happened was, and this is what I want to talk about a little bit, is when I met Swami Dayanandji, and I think I've talked about it before, so it's nothing new, what I find is that he convinced me from becoming a mumukshu. Mukshu means somebody who is fascinated by a subject matter, as I became, into a jigyasu. Jigyasu means that, or now that you are interested in it, how do you get to the bottom of it? What do you need to do? What kind of a study, what structure do you need to do? So this, he was able to communicate with me that, listen, you already have a degree in engineering and another master's degree in business, MBA. So you know what an applied study towards a subject matter means and how you can transform yourself. Vedanta is the same way. In fact, more so than anything else. I remember the 2.5 years that I spent at Piercy, closer to 2 years, even though I was going back and forth for another 6 months, were most intense in my life. And so I transformed my mumuksha into jigyasa. So the reason I'm saying that is that many of you are spending a fair amount of time with me. 2 classes a week is a lot, and that certainly demonstrates your commitment, your fascination, your interest in the subject matter. But then I want to make sure that this fascination is transformed into a very systematic study into the details so that you become an expert in it. This is what we should do. And so what that means is that attending classes is good, but it takes quite a bit more than that. It means taking notes, noting down some important points that really fascinate you, asking questions about it, revising it, testing yourself for it, and then finally kind of seeing the interrelationship with all the important points, how that focuses into something which is very meaningful to you, which really gives you the results. So this is what we have to do. You know, in the last 1 year has been medically very challenging for me. I had a lot of things going on, some in the lungs, some in the blood sugar, all kinds of things. So I had a chance to visit with many of the doctors at Palo Alto Medical Clinic, more so than I've ever done in my life. And of course, I'm getting old, so that's very natural. But what really impressed me was how much these doctors have accomplished in their life and how that presents itself in a very short amount of time. And you go in and start to talk to them, they're able to assess what is your issue and analyze it and start to think about some methods to get rid of it. That includes understanding the names of the medicines, side effects, alternatives. Very impressive, really. I'd go to these doctors and say, I think I know what's going on, just within 5 minutes. This is what we have to do in Vedanta. When we have to keep on specializing to a point where no matter what event comes up in our life, what advice people want from us, what new things come, shocks come, I'm able to pull together, like a doctor, the right panacea for it. You have to analyze it. You have to say, oh, I think I know what's happening. This is what needs to happen. And so for that, I think we need to have a very structured approach where, as I mentioned, you have to take notes of important points and so on. And then, quite frankly, I have improved my own methodology and study. And I must say that the Mandukya Karika with Swami Akhandananda really had so much material to think about, so many ideas, so many applications in my life. So fascinated I was that I decided that I'm just going to start keeping a very structured list of important points that really affected me, that inspired me, and just keep notes of that, and then refer to it over and over again until it becomes second nature to me. This is what I'm trying to do. I'll show you. I actually brought this just to show you. So I've changed it a couple of times. I'm not sure this is the final one. This is somewhat loose leaf. But what I do is, I'll give you this about 6 or 7 pages, double-sided. So I'll take When I note down, when I'm reading the book and something strikes me as something amazing, something I hadn't thought of, or even if I had thought of before, but something very important from the standpoint of the emphasis that Swami Akhandananda makes. Then what I write down is I put down the page number, and then I write down some notes about it. Next page number, some notes about it. So oftentimes the notes usually are enough to jog my memory as to exactly what strikes me. But in case it doesn't after a while, which happens, you can go back to the page number, go back to the book and actually read that. And once in a while, when you just look at it and say, my goodness. You know, the other thing you'll find is, at least this is happening in my cases, is that that then when you read it again, you said, oh yes, this I know. This I know. What used to be a new thing at that time, once you really connect it to a lot of other things, it becomes very normal. And that normal is different from the normal before. It has more insight into it. And so that will happen to you. Anyway, I just thought that I spent some time just talking about the methodology of becoming effective in learning the Vidya. So, so I thought that what I would do before I start the text itself, based on this background, is to just go over some of the important points in the last few classes. Not an exhaustive list, but I think that this is what I mean. And it'd be interesting, you should compare this to what you might have noted, and they should coincide more or less. Everybody has their own. What strikes me should strike you, but it may not. And what strikes you should strike me, but it may not. But it has a high degree of overlap. Okay, now I have about 9 or 10 things that I just quickly noted down when I was preparing for this class. Just an example of what I would consider to be key concepts, important points. Okay. First one is Om is the name of the complete being. It is a word symbol of completeness, purnatvam, completeness, lacking nothing. So this begs the question, is there something which is a complete person? And another second point is that, yes, we kind of put in our minds that God, Ishvara, Bhagavan, Paramatma, must be a complete person. So in Vedanta, we say, yes, that is correct, Ishvara. And from the standpoint of the very content of Ishvara, the solidity of Ishvara. Ishvara, of course, has some implications in terms of running the whole world and so on. But if you look at I mentioned that the other day, is that if you look at the analogy of an ocean, Pacific Ocean, so there is a certain form, certain boundary. This doesn't quite apply to Ishvara, but just as an example. So you can call it the Pacific Ocean. But the Pacific Ocean is none other than a body of water. That's the solidity of that's the very content of the Pacific Ocean. So there, you can say, yes, that complete person is in fact Ishvara. But From a content standpoint, it is called Brahman. Yes, Om, therefore, is the name of the complete person, the only complete person, not one. Because that's very obvious that if it is one of many complete persons, then none of them are complete. Ekam advitiyam, complete person. So Om is a name. So these are, it's interesting if somebody were to say, well, what is the Om? You can even ask your loved ones and say, ask me what Om is. Go ahead. So they said, what? Okay, what is Om? So then you explain it, just for your own satisfaction. Okay, so that's one important point. The second thing we saw, not the second, but another thing we saw, I'm not sure that we took it in sequence, I'm just noting down the important points, that a name of an entity, and here a complete person is the entity, that is the vastu, that is the dravya, as we saw. A name is a much more appropriate / fitting reference than a form. So the name is called pratika. Om is a pratika. It's a word symbol. It's a word. Not it's a symbol means. I don't know what symbol means. It's a word. And then a form of the complete person. So Shiva is one of the forms. Dakshinamurti is one of the forms. And you can do it any other way. Christ, Vishnu, or any kind of a form. It's called pratima. So compared to that, a pratika is much more appropriate than a form. Why is that? This is another important question that you should file in your I wouldn't say memory. This is not memorizing things, not accepting this is what it was said in the class and therefore I accept it. But this is a concept that you should understand. You should challenge yourself. Why is a pratika a more important and a more fitting reference than a pratima? It is because a pratima, which is a form, is incomplete. It only gives you a partial picture. In fact, the pratima of Ishvara is Jagat. It's the world, not samsara. The difference between the word Jagat and samsara. Samsara is very subjective. Jagat is objective. Jayate gacchati iti jagat. The one that comes up and goes is called jagat. Means one which is continuously moving. There's no steadiness in it. It looks steady, but it's not steady. I mean, it's just an amazing fact that I'm sitting here not moving. You're sitting there not moving. But none of us are not moving. If you really saw the speed with which we are moving, it is mind-boggling. Not only the speed of the earth, but the speed of the galaxy. It is probably millions of miles a second. I don't know, some big number. And yet it doesn't appear to be moving. It appears to be very steady. So the Jagat is the name of the Srishti, the very creation. But it is not a complete name. It's not a complete Vastu. Why? Because the Jagat also requires some Adhisthana, which is Nirakara, which has no form. Just like a water in that sense, compared to the waves, has no form. So similarly, if you're only describing the Jagat, you're not Sakara, you're not describing the Nirakara. And so therefore, a Pratima is not a complete assessment or a reference to Om, or to Brahman rather, not to Om, but to Brahman. But Om can be, if it is properly understood. If it is not understood, then it looks like just a simple sound, Om, and we all do. But if we understand, if that relationship between Abhidhana and Abhideya is made, then Om is a very proper word for Brahman, as we will see in more detail. And then there was an analysis made in the classes that the exploration of form ultimately is fruitless. And the exploration of the source of the word is ultimately very fruitful. And so this also gives another corollary, which I'm not sure that we have explored much yet, but we will. But very important corollary for making progress in our spiritual journey. And that is, that corollary forms, it's a byproduct of the name and the form. And what that means is, you should be involved in your life just to make sure you don't get into trouble. You should be involved in things that you see and observe only to a point where it is necessary. Your energy should be towards not what you see, but how you see it. A vichara towards drik rather than a vichara towards drishya is what will bring you complete freedom in life. And this is related to the name and form, the pratika and pratima, because this is what the dialogue between Ishvara and Jiva, where Jiva said, you are being partial, you take everything and you haven't left me anything. leads to, where Ishvara says, you don't understand. I'm giving you the better things. And that means that the word, an analysis of the word, following the trail of the word, yeah, that's the right thing to look at it. It's really a question of following the trail. A lot of our education, a lot of our understanding of Mandukya and Mandukya Upanishad, that soon it will happen even today, really means where do you begin? How do you move? What direction should I follow? Lingam. What is the hint? And that trail of finding the truth is done with the word, not with a form. Because the form leads to anatma. Ultimately, there is no such thing as anatma. It is just provisionally different from me. The world is provisionally different from me. But once I understand, or what I should understand, is that it is nothing but a form of me alone. This is what we have to really go into in more detail. That's why this course is so long. But at least provisionally, if you just focus on the form, you'll get lost. And this is exactly what is happening in our experiences of life. We are just from morning to evening just involved with drishya, 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 drishya. Hasn't gotten me any closer to who I want to be. So that's a false trail which would lead into dead ends. Whereas a word, if it is followed according to the Shastra, once the Abhidhana and Abhidheya are correctly analyzed and connected, will lead you to yourself. You know, I was just thinking about it just this afternoon. I was listening to a very beautiful bhajan by Pandit Jasraj. It's called Govind Damodara. Beautiful bhajan. 32 minutes. So I've really gotten into the habit of putting my headphones on and then go to Spotify or something. In this case, Spotify. And I put a bhajan on and I walk while the bhajan is going on. And so because I have to really walk a lot for getting my health. I don't get enough walking outside, it's cold. So I make a round inside the home while I'm listening to it. And it's very pleasant. So beautiful. You attack 2 or 3 things at the same time. Your mind is so involved in listening to the bhajan. Your body is being there is some exercising going on, and very nice. So anyway, I was listening to this bhajan, and there the word for Krishna is Govinda Gopala, as you know. You of course know the meaning of the words Govinda Gopala. In the word Govinda Gopala, it can either be taken as a form or it can be taken as a word. So there's Swami Dayananji had explained this so well, I still remember this. So one you can take is what's called the Rudhi Artha. So the Rudhi Artha means, so there are two ways of understanding the meaning of a word. One is by convention. So most of the languages like English and so on are by convention. I don't know to what it's not all by convention, but mostly by convention. So when you say the word um, son, S-S-O-N, I'm not sure if there is a meaning behind it, but in the word putra, which is the word for a son, there is a meaning behind it. Pumsahat rayate, something like that. One that that protects you from bad things. Even after you are unable to pay a debt, your son will pay it for you after you are gone. So your bad karmas sometimes are protected. Anyway, so I won't go into that. But all words have two meanings. One is called Rudhi Artha. Rudhi Artha means convention by convention. The other one is Vyutpatti Artha. Vyutpatti Artha means it is based on some meaningful verb, dhatu. So you take Govinda. So the Rudhi Artha of Govinda and Gopala is Krishna. Just like Rama. So Krishna, there is a Rudhi Artha for is called Govinda. The Vyutpatti Artha, however, is different. Vyutpatti Artha means Gophihi vindate iti Govinda. And Gopalayate iti Gopala. Govinda Gobhihi vindate. Go can either mean cow, cow. See the similarity between Sanskritam and Hindi and English. So go can mean a cow. Go also means a word, Vedic word, Shastric word is called go. Go bhihi vindate. So the meaning of Govinda from a Vyutpatti standpoint means the self or Brahman which can only be discovered by words. That is the only pramana, because I am looking for Ishvara by concluding that he is not here, isn't it? Is he sitting in the room with you? You'll say no. So we have already concluded that Ishvara and Paramatma is not here. There's no way Paramatma can hide. There's no place where he is not. So it's just like having you ask somebody supposing you give a big party and you were supposed to invite hey, this happened to me just the other day. Somebody invited me for a fundraising. And for the Santa Clara County, not county, but the congressional seat, which people are now, there is a election going on, and there's a guy called Rishi Kumar, who is one of the candidates for it. So a friend of mine had sent out an email saying, please come and meet Rishi Kumar and support him with some funds if possible. So I went to his place. And I was talking to people, and I got there about 10 minutes earlier, and there were about a dozen people, and so we were saying hello to each other, introducing ourselves, and so on and so forth. And then one of the people who came in and greeted Rishi Kumar saying, "Hello, Rishi, nice to see you." I had been talking to him for 5 or 7 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes, but I didn't know that was the person that I had come to see. So some words were necessary. I was not lacking in experience, but I didn't know who he was. This is called Govinda. It's not as though Ishvara is lacking, but some introduction has to be done, and can only be done through words. So the word is Vyutpatti Artha, called Govinda. And Gopala also means the one who is protector of the Vedas, because Vedas can never be obliterated, because it is Ishvara's property. This is why the Vedic culture, despite all of the attempts by so many different people to kill it, has not happened. This is the only culture that has survived. A lot of the old cultures have really disappeared. Greek, Roman, Mesopotamian, or whatever. Hindu culture cannot die. You can try to kill it by constructing 2,000 mosques on top of mandirs. Cannot die. The Gopala means the one who protects the words. You will always find some teacher somewhere or the other who knows what's going on. So therefore, I was just thinking that words are important, and this is how we see the words being communicated to us, leading to an understanding of what is going on. Okay. Another important point. I'm just making a list of the important points, just revising in that stand. Another important point. The complete being that we talked about earlier cannot be away from me. Cannot be. By definition, it violates the very definition of completeness by being coupled with the fact that it must be different from me. So the only possibility is that it is me, but I am ignorant about it. Ignorance is a possibility. Ignorance does not interfere with, it does not violate the truth about things. It simply says, I don't see it. I'm not aware of it. It was interesting. One of our students just wrote me an email, and she said, "Can you please explain why there is a reason for ignorance?" This ignorance causes a lot of problems, including if you don't see something, you can stumble on it and break your leg. That happens all the time with older people. You didn't see it. Ignorance causes a lot of problems. The question is, why was it created? I think is the way she said it. Why was ignorance created? I think that was the question. And it's an important question. And for a long time, it really bugged me too. I must say that. And people would say, it's this is the way things are. Just accept it. And we did. I did accept it as a fact of life. There's nothing. But there was something that was not quite satisfying. And so as this question also came up. So I wrote to her back saying, now I understand fully understand. But I'm not ready to discuss that yet with you. Why not? You're the teacher, why can't you discuss this? Because if I just tell you the way I feel, it will be exactly like saying, this is the way it is. You won't accept it. I have to convince you, which requires a lot of different aspects of the thing before it starts to dawn on you and say, my God, this makes sense, as it did to me. And it will come, but you need to give me lots of time. It'll be meaningless for me to just simply say it. Because I don't want you to simply accept what I'm telling you. I want you to understand it. And for that, both you and I have to work together. This is the whole idea about the important points. This is the whole idea about this Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Saha Viryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinao, Vaditamastu, Ma Vidvishabhai. Means this is a joint project. This is the only prayer, not even the only prayer, maybe there are other prayers, but it's the most important prayer where the teacher and the student have a joint responsibility for understanding. I have to be very structured in my teaching, and I hope that you are just as structured as I'm pointing out in your own learning. Then I think we'll create a joint vision. So anyway, so that's the. So going back to the fact that yes, if there is a complete person, it must be me, but I don't understand it. I don't get it. How can I be the? My experience is just the opposite. And that is an important point. So hold those things. But to say that look for Ishvara elsewhere is an oxymoron. That's the word I was looking for it the other day when I was talking about black and white. Oxymoron means that mutually exclusive. You cannot be a complete person and not be me. It has to be that. Then, perhaps a last point, and that is that this is an important thing too, I'm just giving you all these unconnected important points, suggesting them, or there are probably others that I missed, that out of all pramanas, all proofs, the most important one is anubhava. So, and the word anubhava from a Vyutpatti standpoint also is very important, interesting. I won't have the exact ones, I think I have written it down. But what it means is that your thoughts, your experience, your conclusion follows what the Shastra is saying. So that's where the word anu comes in. Anu means to follow. So something like anubhu means to follow how the truth of beingness. Something like that is given in Anubhava. I have it written down, but I don't remember it here. So the most important pramana is Anubhava, is your own personal experience. No amount of yukti can be satisfying. And no amount of Shastra saying it without Anubhava is going to make a difference. So, this is why, there's several ways of looking at this. One is that the most important teacher for you is not the person who is talking, person who is teaching, but it is your own understanding that removes the doubts. That is the real teacher. All I'm trying to do and Shastra is trying to do is to create that understanding in you. But that is the real teaching. Your own thoughts, the clarity of the vision is your real teacher. In the same way, we often bandy about the terms Mahavakya. Even in one of the previous classes, one of the students had said, so that sounds like a Mahavakya. And I had said, yes, it's a Mahavakya. But just think about it. Is Mahavakya, is it a technical thing where some tat and tvam are equated? There is aikyam, there is identity. This is all theoretical. It doesn't mean anything. A Mahavakya means a Vakya. Maha means great, a great. Vakya means a sentence, the great sentence. The greatest sentence, the greatness of sentences comes about when something is said where you say, oh my God, that is me, I didn't realize it. So again, just like in the case of the teacher, a Mahavakya are some words where you have Anubhava. And this is what we have to strive for. It will come. So the important point I was talking about is that this Sakshat Anubhava, the direct understanding, is this most important pramana. And so here, Swami Akhandananda, just on the side, was talking about that oftentimes the Shastra will say, Aham Brahmasmi, and then the following thing will be Brahman Ahamasmi. So it closes the loop both ways. Why does it do that? Why isn't it enough to say Aham Brahmasmi? So, Swamiji says, and this needs a lot of thought, so I'm not sure this will just be the only word. Needs some thought to get to that point. What Swamiji was saying was that the first Aham Brahmasmi removes a sense of limitation. That my God, Brahman, the complete person, I am that complete person. So I am that means that you position yourself to be that. When the second one comes out, that is me, that nails down aparokshata, anubhava. You see what I'm saying? So just I'll go on to it because this is a subtle thing which will have to be done again and again. The first one, aham brahmasmi, removes parichinnata, aham aparichinnaha. The second one, brahma ahamasmi, ensures aparokshata. Oh my God, that's me. I can't believe this. So anyway, this is also a kind of like a corollary to that the anubhava is the most important pramana that delivers the goods to me. Anyway, that's a list of some important points that we have already discussed previously, and you, I'm sure that you have made a note of it, and if not, then do so. All right, so with that, in the next 10, 15, 20 minutes, something like that, let us now go back to the Shruti Vakya. So what we are studying is the mantra number 2 of the Mandukya, which is Sarvam hi etad brahma ayam atma brahma saha ayam atma chatushpat. So this is what we had started last time. And we had talked about all of that except for Saha ayam atma chatushpat. Ayam atma chatushpat. So chatushpat means has, here Swami Paramarthananda has said 4 quarters. So, 4 aspects, 4 segments. All those words are okay, but we'll have to see the meaning of it to understand what Chatushpad is. So, so I forgot. No, I didn't forget. No, this is okay. So it says Chatushpad. So now if we go to the Adi Shankara's Bhashya on this one, he says, that's what I had not pointed that out yet. So now we can do it. So he says, Ayamiti chatushpatatvena pravibhajyamanam pratyak atmataya abhinayena nirdashati ayamatma iti. So ayam means kind of, this is called Abhinayamanam. Where does it say? Abhinaya? Yeah. Abhinayena. Abhinaya means a gesture. That's the exact translation, gesture. So by gesture, the gesture is by meaning that if you were sitting right next to me, I would say you. And I can say that you. So this is called abhinaya. Abhinaya means that you have some gesture that you're using. And so it doesn't mean you will be, or you were, or you may. It says you are. This is the meaning of Abhinaya, Adi Shankara. But anyway, the main thing then after that is Saha Ayam Atma. By the way, this is given, if you want to really follow this, the Shankara Bhashya, because in Swami, just give me a second. Hi, I'm having my class.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I'll call you later.
All right, bye-bye. That my son, because I was out of water, out of power, he was calling to see if I'm okay. So in Swami Akhandananda's book, there are references at the point where he's having a discussion. Both of them are actually doing the same thing. But the references of the Shankara Bhashya are much clearer in Swami Dayananda's book. So in page 84, he's talking this, what I'm just talking about it. Tatcha Brahma aparoksha abhihitam pratyakshataha abhivisheshena nirdishati ayamatma Brahma iti. Ayamiti chatushpadattvena pravividyamanam pratyakatmataya abhinayena nirdishati ayamatma iti. So it's given in page number 84. Then the next one where now we will analyze in the next few minutes is Saha Ayam Atma. This is on page 87 and also given in Swami Akhandananda's books. And I was reading just the book on all of the Shankara Bhashyas together. So this is the, I think I've talked to you about it. This is all the 10 Upanishads in Sanskrit only. There's no English in here. So he says, Saha Ayamatma Omkara Abhidheyaha Paraparatvena Vyavasthitaha Chatushpad Karshapanavatna Gauhu Iva Iti. Saha Ayamatma Omkara Abhidheyaha Paraparatvena Vyavasthitaha. So let's just look at that part of it. So he says that this Atma that we are saying you, meaning by the gesture saying you, which is the Vastu pertaining to the word Om. Ready? We've already talked about it, that really the Om is your name as well. Because you are not different from Brahman. So, Ayamatma Omkaraha Abhidheyaha. Omkara is the Abhidhana and Abhidheya, they are all the same. Para Aparatvena Vyavasthitaha. Para Apara. One which is established. Vyavasthitaha means one which has been, one which is being talked about, which is in question, one with the subject matter, one which we are talking about. That Vyavasthita is Para Aparatvena Vyavasthitaha. So Para Apara means, we know that already, what it means. I'm just telling you that he's not neglecting the fact. This is why it's a complete person, not just a partial person. So a complete person means one who is both para as well as apara. So para means the nirakara you, and apara is sakara you. So this we will see in much more clarity, that Really speaking, if you want to look at yourself in a exhaustive manner, not a casual manner, so you're not just the waves of the ocean, you are the whole ocean. And the water of the ocean somehow seems to be not in your awareness. You're not aware of your own awareness, the enormity of it. So you're only focused on experiences like waves in the ocean. So the para is you. And apara, which is the waves, the very surfacey experiences, is also you. This is going to be the main topic, and we're going to go into that. But he's already positioning it by saying that the Ayam Atma, which is para and apara both, has 4 padas. So the next question is, what? You are saying the Atma is, it has no form, Niravayava, has no parts. How can it have four parts? So here, Swami Akhandananda actually spends a lot of time on this, but I'll give you the gist of it in this manner, that all the Vyakhyatas, all the people who are teaching, Vedas that are teaching, Rishis that are teaching, they always have some kind of a simile that they use in order to bring home the point. Why do they have to use similes and examples? Because they have to bring the students up slowly. You cannot suddenly say, you are the self, you are completely different from everybody else. You are asangoham, people say that, but it doesn't do anything for me. Why not? Because my mind immediately says, what is he talking about? So I cannot completely dismiss it, but I have to slowly grow into it. So some kind of an example, a simile is given. And so the padas are not real. So don't ask the question that how come Atma has 4 padas, because it is not supposed to have any parts. How come you have padas? So what does it mean? It means it is adhyaropita pada. Adhyaropita pada means that it's a pretend pada. It is not a real division. And we'll go into the word pada in just a couple of minutes. But the 4 parts that we talk about are not real. And here's Swami, Adi Shankara actually gives that example. So look at this for those of you that are following this. He says, Saha ayam atma omkaraha abhideyaha para aparatvena vyavasthitaha. This we have done. Then he says, chatushpadat karshanavat na gauhu iva. Karshana eva. So he says the fourfoldness is like a karshana. I also didn't know what a karshana was until I looked up. Swami Dayanandji has this. Swami Akhandananda did not make it very clear. But Swami, in Dayanandji's book, he says, Karshana was the name of a basic segment of currency in Shankaracharya's time. Just like we have rupee or a dollar, Karshana was just like that. I didn't know this. So Adi Shankara says it is like 4 parts to a rupee or a dollar, not the 4 legs of a cow. Now gauha iva. This is a very beautiful point. So for example, sometimes you will say, supposing you're talking to your young kid, say about 5-year-old, and said, what if I give you a quarter? So the guy says, yeah. What does it mean? What will you do with a quarter? Like for example, you can go to a shop or something and you can say, okay, what if I gave you a quarter? What will you buy from it? Well, the child will say, let's see, or this, maybe you can ask somebody, how much does this? So you're going into thoughts about what would it be if I had a quarter. He hasn't given it to him yet. You see, it's not like putting money into a parking meter where you take out 4 quarters. It's not like that. This is like 4 legs of a cow. But it is simply a talk. What if I gave you a quarter? And then you can discuss it. Okay, the quarter doesn't buy me that much. Can you give me 2 quarters? Like that, you can talk about it. But it means that there is some meaningful discussion without having the currency in hand. This is exactly how it is. That's what Adi Shankara is saying, that it is like a rupee. It's a quarter of a rupee, not the legs of a cow. And so the quarters of a rupee will be, so you see, the discussion of a quarter with your young one can be meaningful. You don't have to have a coin you don't have to hand it to him and says, okay, what is this? He'll say, okay, this is a quarter. Okay, now you have it. Now you can buy something from it. It's not like that. But it is just as effective to say, what if you had a quarter? And the young one also will say, a quarter? Okay, let me see what I can ask around, what I can buy for a quarter. So you have a meaningful discussion. Why that is important here is because, as we will see now, this is all making a foundation for going forward with mantra number 3, 4, 5. And in fact, I'll come to that in a minute. That's my final one. I'll close in the next few minutes. So what will happen is that from the standpoint of an ajnani, so if we separate ajnani and an ajnani. Ajnani means a person who has already reached the clear vision of Atma. That's a jnani. A jnani is the one who is trying to. Not he or she is interested and somewhat capable but hasn't reached that. That's an ajnani. And if the ajnani is to be advised about how to become a jnani, you have to make some assumptions. What if you were like this? So that assumption, just like a meaningful assumption on a quarter discussion between a father and a daughter or father and a son, similarly, there is a discussion between a jnani and an ajnani about let us suppose you had this kind of a pada. Take that pada. What will you do with it? Here's what you are supposed to do with it. This is the discussion which is going to come. So here the word pada, I haven't had much time to discuss that tonight, and I will do so in the next class, means a step. What is the next step? This is a step-by-step progress. So there are 4 steps. And one of them is actually the final step, which is not a step. This is the reaching of the, this is the turiya, the 4th one. And so basically in the next what's in the mantra number 3, number 4, 5, and 6. 3, 4, this is all Mandukya mantras. 3, 4, 5, and 6. We will talk about the steps, the 3 steps. 3 steps. Then mantra number 7 will be the final step of understanding the reality of the self. So this is how we're going to follow, and we will now go into what is the meaning of the word pada, and then hopefully get into mantra number 3 itself of what it means. So with that, I close today's class, not close off. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityormaham Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Good. Nice to see you all. Wonderful. All right. Don't see any questions, so I look forward to seeing you next Saturday. Hari Om.